Hey everyone, welcome back to Big Strong Book. I'm Reed, the author of Chorus of 1,000, available now on Amazon. And today we are talking about Satantango by László Krasznahorkai. At least I think that is how you pronounce the author's name. I hope I got that correct. This novel is the source material for the film I reviewed last week, directed by Béla Tarr. And again, that movie is renowned for, or at least maybe a little notorious even, for being one of the longest feature films ever produced. It's nearly 7.5 hours long. And I had wanted to read the book. I really enjoyed the film. And so I wanted to see how that world would translate over into the form and the medium of a novel. Because I knew that the crux of this story is very much so, it's McCarthy-esque for those of us English language readers who maybe haven't really dived deep into the great world of international literature. But this, the film by Béla Tarr and then this novel, those vibes reign supreme. I knew I'd read a little bit about Krasznahorkai's general style, that he very much leans into overwhelming the reader in terms of how he will structure a chapter or format it. And I'll just open the book here, really to any random page. So, no paragraph breaks. Pretty much every single chapter, no paragraph breaks ever, even if the perspective changes, if different characters begin speaking, there are no paragraph breaks for that. So you have to really settle in. And I will say this book was difficult for me because of the way it is formatted, because the way that I read a little bit quickly, and this, maybe it's a good thing. This book really, because the fact that everything is presented as a wall of text, things like Absalom. Some of the works of Faulkner might be good examples of that, where they but even with many works of Faulkner, it's not the whole thing. That's where it's a massive just wall of text coming at you. For the works of Faulkner, like Absalom, it's just sections here and there, maybe a chapter here and there, but not the entire book or 90% of the book. And so that means that this book really presents stuff and I know I'm comparing to the movie, and I get that these are two very different things, but whereas the movie took its time, and you'd get many shots that would last for 5 minutes, maybe even as much as 10-minute long shots, where you could infer, that allowed the audience to infer where these characters are in their lives, what they're thinking in this moment, what they're going through, what they hope for, what their hopes are, what their regrets are. And it's very difficult to do that in that same manner. So this novel, Satantango, is almost maximalist in that approach of this is what, whereas the movie is, it allows the audience to absorb completely the things that are going on in the screen, because it is a very slow-paced movie. This, while retaining that same level of pacing, it does so in such a relentless manner, because you're constantly just reading through and getting through, this character says this character says that. And again, because it's a wall of text, there's no breathing room, which of course intentional, and it works because when you're describing a Hungarian village, a Hungarian farming estate where every single person within this estate is at the end of the rope, the end of the line. Their hopes and desires, while they still exist, are completely diminished because they have been led astray time and time again. There are sections in this where I think that they are literally described as sheep, and where they are content to they have these high minds to get out of town, to get these high paying jobs, to have these great lives for themselves, but yet at the end of the day, in the middle of the night, what are they doing? They're at the bar getting wasted. That's how they choose to really live their life, even though they tell themselves that they want a better life, but yet they'll never get to that life, or that's what Krasznahorkai says. And obviously, because what's interesting is that this novel was published in 1985. The film version came out in 1994, and it's explicit, at least in terms of the material that has been written about the film, that it takes place after the fall of communism in Hungary. This was published in 1985, and it doesn't make explicit reference if this is supposed to take place. It just takes place in Hungary. That much is clear. But again, I've kind of danced around it. So the plot of this concerns the kind of smattering of citizens in this Hungarian village or hamlet. It's kind of like a collective farming estate. They're very down on their luck, down on their funds. They're kind of all very despicable people in their own way. Futaki is he's almost presented as maybe the closest we get to a protagonist in that village, mainly because he's not married, which is another interesting thing, because we have the Schmidts, we have the Kroners, we have the Hallecks, and those three, there are three married couples, and then it's almost like the characters with agency in this, ironically, they're the characters who have no attachments to other people, or that maybe not, that's not irony, but just more of an interesting takeaway. Futaki, the doctor, Jeremias, even though Jeremias has a Petrina, who's kind of a bumbling sidekick, if you will. They're the ones who at least try to exhibit agency, even though they don't really have agency. Anyway, this collective farming community, they hear that this man, Jeremias, and Petrina, who have been long rumored to be dead, that they are returning to town. And for a lot of them, they kind of meet that news with a little bit of fear, because it is established that Jeremias in the past was almost like the de facto leader of the people. They trusted him, but then he left them for 18 months, and then they assumed he died, and they led him astray, but yet they're so optimistic. They're like, yes, he has come back. He can lead us out of this. And they prop him up into being this kind of messianic figure, which he is not. And he views these people in a very almost pessimistic way, and in a kind of a demeaning way, but I mean, he and similar to the film version with this novel. With Jeremias in particular, because a lot of this book is spent on his perspective, you don't really get a good look into the interior. I think because with a lot of this, it isn't really focused on Eremias. It's on Petrina, kind of his sidekick. The inner, and I could be wrong on that. The Eremias might get more of a POV slice of the novel than others. But he's a guy who he seems like he genuinely wants to help these people, but then he's kind of working for the government or a police force and is reporting back to them about these people. But then he also might be a political terrorist, maybe an anarchist, or somebody. He wants to get a lot of explosives, but it's not clear what for. Like in the film version, it's not his motivations. The crux of his character, it's kind of a little bit of a question mark. Or will he just run off with their money? Who knows? But it's so overwhelming in terms of its bleakness, its darkness, the level of despicable characters, the unredeeming characters. And I'm not saying that they have to be redeeming. It's just you really have to be in the right mindset to read this book. And I think I'm glad I saw the movie version first. I'm glad I saw that because I already knew the core of the plot, and I have to say, book and movie, it's a carbon copy. I don't think with the movie version, I don't think I've seen a movie version of a book that is so close of a damn near moment by moment, scene by scene adaptation. There's not really anything, I think, from here that is left out. I think every single thing in this book makes it into the movie. It's just the way it's presented. You have time to let the images breathe on the screen, because a lot of the time within the book is spent within the characters' heads, which you can, again, infer from the screen. You can't, it's harder to do that with a book. So it's with that in mind, like, I love this story. I love just kind of the bleakness of the story. I guess I enjoy the pessimism. Wouldn't consider myself necessarily a pessimistic person, but I liked the kind of the dark messaging for kind of what the country of Hungary, what it turned into, at least in perhaps in some of these communities that the author may or may not have witnessed himself. Who knows? But because it is relentless, it makes it a little difficult to enjoy. It makes it a little more of a hurdle than I think it needs to be. Or maybe because my opinion or my expectations were already colored from the fact that I watched the movie first before reading the book. Maybe that had something to do with it. But because I love the story, maybe not the way that it is styled and the way that it is presented in the form of the book. But again, Krasznahorkai, I am intrigued. This will not be the only book by him that I read. What I'll probably do is when I read another book by him, I might try to read a book that doesn't have a film adaptation, so I'm getting the story organically from the book. There's not really any strings attached, as there's the spiders spinning their webs, attaching the strings. So there's no strings attached. So, but it's, the film and this, I think, offer a pretty good 1-2 punch. It's just, you really have to be prepared for walls of text, for things within how the characters, the type of bleak outlook. I think you have to prepare yourself with that for the movie, but at least with this, you get, you can come back to it. You get some time away from it. I don't think it's wise to do that with the movie. So again, maybe my enjoyment of this was a little bit tainted because I had already seen a form of this story that worked so well for me. But this was a very solid book, maybe in between a 3 to a 4 out of 5 for me, maybe a 3.5. just because the story is fantastic, and this book does pick up. If you like to really study style, this would be a great book to do that with. And I think maybe if I really were to dive into this and maybe take my time with it more, and learn a little bit of patience for this, I think that this would serve me better on a reread, or if I grow more comfortable or familiar with Krasznahorkai's other works, again, particularly those that haven't been adapted into a film yet, I might feel different. But I will certainly be. This will not be a book I only read once. Likewise, the film not going to be one I only watch once. And Krasznahorkai, I'm absolutely intrigued with this guy, because you're looking for authors that can kind of scratch the itch that Cormac McCarthy can scratch for me, because he's probably my favorite author. But this is such an utterly just a trip of a book. And maybe it was going off the deep end, but it's, yeah, there's so much to unpack with this. So whether you've seen the film and are debating reading the book, I still think it's worth reading, just kind of going into it with the same mindset of the film, but knowing there's going to be even more thrown at you. And then likewise, if you haven't seen the film, I would also recommend this, but again, just with, I think, a similar note of caution. So, Satantango by László Krasznahorkai. Again, hopefully I'm pronouncing that correct. If anybody knows and would care to correct me, I'd appreciate it. Satantango, if you guys have read it, anything else from this author, or any other books like it, Central European novels of this nature, let me know. Let me know what you think. And as always, I will see you guys next time.